Is San Francisco Giants former number one prospect Luis Matos cooked? Let's find out. This one's personal for me because I was always really high on Luis Matos, and I had always ranked him higher than other incoming prospects like Kyle Harrison and Marco Luciano. I really thought Luis Matos was the one. And when he overtook Marco Luciano and Kyle Harrison as Fangraph's number one Giants prospect, I was like, hell yeah. These guys get it. But now Luis Matos is struggling at the big league level, and it's hard to watch. But I have noticed he's made some changes to his setup in 2025, and I think it's having a negative impact on his hitting. He's just been horribly misguided, and there is time to right the ship. So let's take a look at some of the changes he made, some of the data that shows that it ain't working, and suggestions on how to get him back on track. Because Luis Matos, you're still my boy. So recently, the San Francisco Giants farm system ranking has taken a considerable tumble. But that's not because it's an inherently bad system. It's because it was incredibly top-heavy, and a lot of their top prospects have graduated to non-prospect status. So that is just a byproduct of their good prospects making it to the major leagues, which is a good thing. Of their 30 MLB pipeline top prospects from 2023, 12 have spent a considerable amount of time on the Giants roster, and 5, or arguably 6 or 7 of them, have become mainstays in the San Francisco Giants lineup or pitching staff. While their system has taken a hit, their major league rosters had an infusion of young talent. Unfortunately, some of these prospects are not reaching their ceiling. So I was always a big Luis Matos guy. There were things about his game that I really liked when he was an amateur, and I thought he had a really good bat-to-ball ability and a really nice, repeatable swing. But since Luis Matos' 2023 debut, he's been in a steady decline. It looks like in the 2024-2025 offseason, Luis Matos has made a bit of an overhaul to his setup, and the results have been a true bottoming out for a guy who had and still possesses a lot of talent. This season, you can see that Matos has really gotten away from having a more upright 50-50 setup and is now essentially sitting on his back leg. His upper body and hand positioning is relatively the same, but then he gathers and you see a big move towards his backside, and then he makes his move forward to his launch position. While Matos does do a good job of landing in a balanced position to get back to 50-50, you can see that he starts losing his hands, which is lengthening his swing, reducing his efficiency, and making him later on pitches. This is evident because the StatCast data verifies that. He has the longest swing of his career, and over the past 2 seasons, he's catching the ball much deeper in the zone than he did his rookie season. Going back to his 2024 swing, which more closely resembles his swing as an amateur and his early professional career, with the exception of a few things, you could see him standing in a much more upright and balanced position to start. But what you can really see is that he doesn't get too greedy with his hands to try to generate more bat speed or more power by forcing separation. You can see his hands sort of hit an invisible wall as he carries them with his forward move, and he lets the implied separation caused by his hip rotation to carry his hands along with his backside for a much more efficient and powerful swing. However, if you go through his older swings, you can see that Matos seems to have a tendency to lose his hands and force a little bit too much separation, which causes his hands to sort of move independent of his backside move, which causes some inefficiency in his swing. So you can see in his 2025 swing and setup that he's more in this sit and spin variety of hitter now, which he didn't used to be. Now, there are some merits to the sit and spin philosophy. There are a lot of players who succeed with this, but Luis Matos isn't that kind of hitter, and I think he needs to get back to a more balanced, contact-oriented approach because he's filled out so much in his professional career that you have to believe the power will come and just let his natural bat-to-ball abilities take over. But another thing about this sit-and-spin philosophy as it pertains to Luis Matos is that he's selling out for more power, and it's having a profoundly negative impact on his offensive game. And to be fair, this attempt to extract more power from Luis Matos is working in a sense. He's sitting at a 215 ISO, which is the best of his career, but it is coming at a price. His contact rate is at a career low along with his zone contact rate, and his swing strike percentage is at a career high. While he's doing damage when he does make contact, he's not making enough contact for it to matter. Not to mention, his ground ball rate has skyrocketed and his line drive rate has plummeted. Now, he is hitting the ball in the air 43% of the time, which is second best of his career. But if you're trying to make meaningful contact and put the ball in the air, line drives factor into that as well. So when he's hitting the ball hard, he's hitting into the ground most of the time. Almost 50% of the time, actually. And this does seem to indicate that he is selling out for more power, which comes at the expense of his carrying tool, which is his bat-to-ball ability. While I understand the desire to try to get more power out of Luis Matos, I think a heavier emphasis on swing decisions, swing path efficiency, and plate discipline would serve him a lot better and make him a much more well-rounded hitter, and it would allow his contact ability to play a little bit up if he wasn't such a free swinger. There are two fixes to his setup and swing that could help. One thing that I can't stress enough is that he didn't need to overhaul his setup. He needs to get back to his old setup where he has some adjustability in his swing for when he gets fooled or caught off balance. Because when you're sitting on your back leg and you guess wrong, it is really difficult to make physical adjustments. Now, he was never going to be a 20 to 25 home run guy, but now trying to force him to be a more power-oriented hitter is inhibiting the natural progression of his bat-to-ball contact-oriented swing and development. And as I said before, he's already bulked up a ton since arriving in the pros, so now they just need to figure out how to get his mass properly sequenced to make a more efficient swing. Primary issue that has become evident in most of his tape is he just needs to get better at consistently carrying his hands with his backside move. Once his hands start leaking, his swing starts getting long and he actually leaks power. If he can get his hands moving with his backside move and punch from a shorter distance, he should be able to generate more power that way, not by trying to get longer, but by being more efficient. Think of the 1-inch punch idea from the Kill Bill movies if you need a visual. While Luis Matos has had a hard time adjusting to the major leagues, now he's just in this phase of yo-yoing back and forth from the majors to the minors, and you hate to see it. And I'm not implying that these mechanical changes were suggested by hitting coach Pat Burrell, but if you look at Pat Burrell's swing, it kind of seems like he's forcing young guys to do what he did. And not every hitter is a 6'4" behemoth that can pull balls out of the ballpark at will. But there's still hope. Luis Matos is only 23 years old and has had 3 separate stints in the major leagues. So hopefully he can get things right and be a solid contributor moving forward, because I still really like him, and I know he's not a prospect anymore, but he's still a really talented young player that can really be a meaningful contributor for a long time to come. Thanks again for watching this video. If you're into this stuff, please give me a like. Please subscribe to the page. I know it sounds like I'm begging, but I'm trying to do this all in one take because I am tired. But thanks again, and I'll catch you next video.